All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Connor Kish. I am the director of the Sierra Club Virginia chapter and honored to work with all of you in representing Sierra Club's mission to explore, enjoy, and protect the planet here in Virginia. We're really excited to be bringing this webinar to you tonight because we are really excited about a new law that just took effect here in Virginia on July 1st, about 22 days ago. This past General Assembly session, the Sierra Club Virginia chapter and a contingent of our allies and friends were supportive of legislation to bring what's known as balcony solar to Virginia. Virginia became the second state in the United States to bring balcony solar, and the reason for tonight's webinar is to learn what that is, what it means, what you can do, and all of the ways that it can be so beneficial to you. So we are going to do this sort of round robin style. We're going to put up some slides that will explain further information, and then we're going to run through the panelists that you see here on the screen. And what we will also do is have a Q&A session at the end. And so if you'll see at the bottom of your Zoom screen, there is a button called Q&A with a little question mark in it if you're looking for the icons. You can go ahead and place questions in there at any time throughout the webinar this evening. And then at the end of the webinar, when we get to the Q&A section, we will start rolling through those questions. I will go ahead and preface it now. We might not get to all of the questions, but what we're going to do is save them, and we will reply to you individually with an answer. If for some reason we run out of time and your question is not answered live during the webinar, we will get you your answer, we promise. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Karina Bell, who is the Sierra Club Virginia chapter's legislative and political director, to keep us going. Karina.
Hi, folks. Good evening and welcome. Thank you for joining us. My name is Karina Bell, and I am our legislative and political director at the Virginia Chapter Sierra Club. Tonight is all about one of the most exciting clean energy wins of the 2026 General Assembly session in Virginia. We have legalized plug-in solar. This was House Bill 395 from Delegate Krizik and Senate Bill 250 from Senator Surabel. It was signed on April 22nd and takes effect on January 1 of 2027. So we've got a little bit of ways before you can plug in your own solar on your own balcony, but we're going to go over that and the steps you can take between now and then to get ready for it. So let's go ahead and go to our next slide. So what is plug-in solar? You may have heard of it under the name balcony solar. It's exactly what it sounds like, a small solar panel paired with a microinverter that plugs into a regular wall outlet, then feeds power directly into your home. So 4 things define these plug-in solar units. They're designed to connect through your standard electrical outlet, very important. They're going to be capped at 1,200 watts per household, and that's per unit in an apartment building. They're movable, so it's no permanent installation. You take it with you when you move. And they're safety certified. They meet National Electric Code, they carry certification from a nationally recognized testing lab, and they include a feature that shut the device off during a power outage. That's to protect linemen who are working on restoring power by the utility. And so it doesn't feed power back onto the grid and cause problems for the linemen when they're working to restore power. So this is an experimental technology. Germany has well over 1 million of these registered units on balconies. The technology is mature. Virginia law just has caught up to it now. So let's go to the next slide and find out how it works. So sunlight hits the panel. Microinverter converts direct current DC to household alternative current AC. It plugs into a standard outlet and power flows to whatever's running in your home right now. Your refrigerator, your dishwasher, your clothes washing machine. Every watt the panel produces is a watt you don't have to buy from the utility. These devices are built to offset your own consumption, not to sell power back to the grid. That's why the law keeps them very simple. There's no interconnection agreement needed and no net metering paperwork involved with doing plug-in solar. The device automatically stops producing during an outage. Let's go to the next slide. So roughly 1 in 3 Virginia households rent, And renters have been almost entirely locked out of solar to date. They don't own their own roofs, so there's no 25-year payback horizon and no ability to modify the building that they reside in. Um, this goes for folks who do own their own home who dwell in condos as well. Unless they get their condo association on board with solar, they're very typically not going to be able to take advantage of solar electricity on that rooftop. So plug-in kits start at a few $100s, far less than the thousands of dollars you need for a rooftop installation. So you've got no loan and no permanent installation. When your lease ends, that panel can move with you. Electric bills are rising across Virginia. Much of it is driven by data center demand growth, as many of you know. So this gives ordinary households a direct way to take a bite out of your own bill. So this is not a substitute for rooftop utilities, rooftop solar or utility scale clean energy. It's more of an on-ramp. This is the most democratic form of solar ownership Virginia has ever had. Let's move to the next slide. Individually, these are small systems, but the case for protecting our climate is very real. Every kilowatt hour counts. Power made on the balcony is not power generated by burning gas or coal. Multiplied thousands of times across thousands of households, that adds up. And it helps to build the clean energy constituency. When someone watches their own panel shave their own bill, they become a clean energy supporter. Over 1 million balcony solar systems are being used in Germany. Utah passed the first law in 2025, and Virginia is the second in the United States. 6 other states have followed over the last year. So this is a growing movement. You can use the space you already have, and the power is consumed right where it's made. Go ahead and take us to the next slide. So the new law does 3 big things. It legalizes plug-in solar statewide. It doesn't matter which utility you're a customer of, if you live in Dominion service territory, Appalachian Power Service territory, one of the co-ops, or you have municipal power. Everybody can get a plug-in solar unit. There are no barriers. Utilities don't require approval, and they cannot charge any fee, and they cannot demand any extra cost controls or equipment beyond what's built into the device. So rather than get approval for interconnection, you do need to provide a one-time notification to your utility. The State Corporation Commission is going to publish a short form by September 1st, 2026. It's going to be a short form requiring you notify your utility, and then the utility has 15 days to flag any problems. If they don't respond, you're good to go. Also in the law, folks who want to go plug in solar are fully exempt from net metering and interconnection requirements. Localities cannot ban these devices on residential homes, but the normal height or setback rules or historic district rules will still apply. So be thinking about those. A state work group is going to review safety standards and will report on it by November 15, 2026. This is part of our roadmap for going plug-in solar by January 1st. Next slide. So who's eligible and what qualifies? Any utility customer, homeowner, or renter. For renters, landlords who own more than 4 rental units cannot prohibit a qualifying device outside your property, your patio, your balcony. In multifamily buildings, that cap of 1,200 watts applies per unit, not for the whole building. So as said before, these are movable, outlet connected, 1,200 watts. And one number to remember is 391 watts. These devices feed back into your home 391 watts of output. That's important because that means they use just one circuit breaker in your regular electric box. You don't have to be rewiring or changing your electric system in order to plug it in. It's already capped at the limit of what your circuit breaker can handle. So let's go to the next slide. So here's some more information for renters. As said before, if you live in an apartment building or condominium complex with more than 4 units, the landlord cannot say no to a qualified device. You do need to give some written notification to your landlord about 7 days before installing. And landlords may set some reasonable size, placing, and manner restrictions, but they cannot ban plug-in solar. You are responsible for any damage the device causes. Anything requiring changes to building wiring or panel needs, of course, the landlord's written approval. And the law does not override HOA covenants or condo rules. So you may want to look into that before you go solar. Let's go to the next slide. So the timeline to January 1st has a couple of things on it as we get closer. The bill was signed on April 22nd. The State Corporation Commission will publish a notification form by September 1st. That's the form you'll need to fill out and send to your utility before you can plug in your solar unit. And a safety work group meeting will report to the General Assembly by November 15. That's to make sure these units are safe in the utilities here in Virginia. Once again, this is going to be applicable in every service territory. January 1, the law takes effect. So you can't plug in just yet, but spend the fall researching devices, checking your balcony sun exposure, and watch for that SEC form that will drop in the fall. Next slide. So what do we do between now and then? Spread the word. Most people have no idea that this is coming and that this will be an option for them. And go ahead and get ready by researching the devices that you would like to use. And finally, thank the champions who got this done, Delegate Krizik and Senator Scott Suravel. So we're going to go ahead and wrap there. And I want to transition to something more fun. Let's see a kit get opened now.
Working on it,
We're
Karina.
about to play a video for you with a very special guest who's going to open a plug-in solar unit for you.
Can you see it?
She sure can, Paige.
Cool. All right.
Hi, I'm State Senator Scott Suravel, I'm the Virginia Senate Majority Leader, and I'm here today because this year I carried Senate Bill 250, which is a bill that authorized what's called balcony solar starting on January the 1st of 2027. And balcony solar is basically the idea that you can basically take a solar panel, you can hang it on the side of your rail if you live in an apartment, you live in a condominium, if you have an old roof, you want to put it outside your house, maybe you live in a mobile home. Maybe you have a small business and you don't own your roof, but you want to generate a little bit of electricity, but you can do that. They're very inexpensive. They're only $300. And I just got one delivered to me and I want to unbox it here and show you how it works. Let's see, you can see the box here. It's a 180-watt panel. The law, by the way, allows you to have up to 1,200 watts. See, we got some zip ties here to hold it on. Some packaging here, some styrofoam, and let's see. So we have the backside. Two cables here, I guess, one to wire it into another panel if we want. So you can have two panels together. And one, I guess, to go out to the inverter. And let's see. Whoops. There we go. That is a solar panel. Look at that. Probably would be creating electricity right now if I just had it plugged in. Let's put this right here now. Let's go over and get the inverter. This is our micro inverter. This is what turns the electricity in the panel into electricity that can go into an alternating current in your house. see. The box, we have instruction manual from Bright Saver. We have our plug here. You can see it's just a regular, normal three-prong plug. You plug into the wall of your house. Nothing else in here. This is very simple. Let's see what it looks like, what the inverter looks like. There you go. Well, there's the inverter. It looks like it's capable of being mounted if you need to mount it, or you can not mount it. It's got a coax cable, a couple other cables to, I guess, plug in other panels. And this is where you plug the plug in right here. Pretty cool. We've got a smart plug, which is basically a device where you plug in the panel through this and into your house, and that way it allows you to measure how much electricity is coming out and on and off. Again, this panel, it's a 180 watt panel. The law allows you to have up to 1200 watts. So you could have about 6.5 of these things. This one panel here produces, I think, 350 watts, which is about enough to power a clothes washer. This whole setup here is only $300. So you can see how you can recover your cost pretty quickly. You don't have to get any permits from the government. You don't have to mount it on your roof. You don't have to pay somebody all this money to install it. It's very simple, very easy. And we're the second state in America that allows you to do this, which I'm very proud of. Let's grab this panel right now, take it outside, and go start making some electricity.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed seeing Senator Scott Saravel. We really are thankful to him, both for participating in our fun video that we're going to use and share with people, but also for the work that he did to carry Senate Bill through this year so that we can start the path to this really cool new product. Now, you might be wondering, what comes next? How do you learn about getting a solar panel? And what is sort of the industry behind this, and what are their plans to come to Virginia and utilize the fact that we have this exciting new law? So I am going to introduce you all to our next panelist, Rupert Meyer, who is with BrightSaver, and he's going to talk a little bit about what BrightSaver is, the company, and also a little bit about the solar panel, balcony solar panel industry. So I'm going to pass it over to him now.
Thank you. Thanks, Connor. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. So usually what I like to do when I get invited to these presentations, whether in real life or on Zoom, I actually like to show off the panel and the inverter and how it's plugged in. But I think the senator just stole my magic and has already shown all of that. So I might as well take a step back and talk a little bit about BrightSaver, our organization, what we've been doing. And yeah, as Connor mentioned, about the industry at large, and then also happy to answer a lot of questions. So I will share our website here just for reference. So this map here, can you see the map? Is working? Yeah, okay. So this map, this is part of our website. There's this plugin sort of state legislation tracker. So just zooming out to the national level. 1 year ago, this map was entirely white. And there was exactly one state that had introduced and passed plug-in solar legislation, and that was Utah. So Utah was the trailblazer. A lawmaker from Utah, Raymond Ward, he's a family physician, a doctor, not an electrical engineer, but he read about this German phenomenon that Karina mentioned in the New York Times. New York Times published an article in June 2024, almost exactly 2 years ago. Germans are powering their homes from their balconies. And so he thought, wow, this is cool. And this seems so simple. Why do we not have this in the US? And he read up and he got a bill introduced and passed unanimously to basically follow the German or European precedent of creating these exempt category of small portable photovoltaic systems that do not have to abide by the rather complex interconnection and permitting rules that were made for rooftop solar. So in Europe, basically the small solar panel is considered an appliance rather than a construction project. And we think that's very much what it should be. And so Utah got the ball rolling, and suddenly there was a lot of interest from lawmakers all around the country to introduce similar bills. And so we as BrightSaver, we're a national nonprofit. We started in California with the mission to enable this balcony solar boom and basically replicate the German boom. In Germany now, 10% of all households are estimated to have a balcony or a backyard solar kit. And that would mean millions and millions of households in the US. And so we asked ourselves, what can we best do as a nonprofit startup to enable that, to facilitate that? And it turned out advocacy work was the first step. So we put together some model legislation based on the Utah legislation with some tweaks, and we helped lawmakers like Senator Survell and his team around the country to introduce those bills and understand all the nuances around safety, grid safety, electrical safety, circuit safety, etc. And as a result of that work, we teamed up with other solar organizations like Vote Solar or Solar United Neighbors and formed coalitions. And as a result, 35 states introduced bills. And so this is what the map looks like today. The gray ones, unfortunately, the bills have been shut down, and that's not unusual. So they will be reintroduced with all the learnings and all the national momentum next year. The blue ones and yellow ones are still pending. Importantly, California is making good progress. And you are in great company with 8 other states that have fully passed the legislation, and the respective governor has signed it. I just spoke on the radio this morning in Vermont, which was the second state that introduced it. And then the light green ones, New York and New Jersey, the laws have been passed by both chambers, but they are on the governor's desk to sign. So a lot of momentum, and this has been much faster, much more successful than we would have ever dreamed of. A year ago when we started this, we thought getting 5 states to pass a law like this in 2026 would be an amazing success. Now we have 10 already. So this is great. The movement has started, the momentum is going. And so this year we asked ourselves, well, what can we do next? What is the next big thing that needs to happen? And we think the next thing that has to happen is actually getting these kits into people's hands as affordable as possible. So we have now shifted to selling these kits, and as mentioned in the video, they start at under $300. And the way we do that is by being a nonprofit. So we sell those literally at cost. We charge exactly what these kits cost us, the inverter, the solar panels, the shipping, the credit card fees, et cetera, et cetera. And we just ask for a small membership that enables this. So $29 membership, you can become part of the movement, participate in this exciting new wave, and purchase your kit at this very, very attractive price. And yes, in terms of the larger trends, it was mentioned that most plugin laws allow up to 1200 watts. This, as the senator mentioned, is just a 180 watt panel. So you could get 6 of these. We deliberately are starting with these small kits because, again, we want to make it as accessible as possible. A lot of people don't have space on their balcony or in their backyard necessarily for 6 or 4 panels. So you can start with one, even if the savings might be somewhat symbolic, a few dollars per month with simply one panel. You will still amortize it in a few years, and you can make a very first step in producing some of your energy out on your porch or on your balcony cleanly and not having to buy it from the utility. And the other reason why we want to stay small is this 390 watt rule that Karina was referring to. So there's this nuance, and it gets a little technical here. 1200 watt is basically what all these laws have decided is what the utilities have to accept without an interconnection agreement and without all the complicated rules that would usually apply to rooftop solar, to a construction project. This is appliance-like solar. We can make it much simpler. But then the wattage that is deemed safe to plug into any outlet, so I could just take my inverter, attach the cord, and plug it in and not worry about it. That is actually, that limit is lower. That is only 391 watts. And so we've deliberately designed this kit, even with the two panels, to be at only 360 watts with some extra safety buffer to be below that 391. So it is really safe to plug into any outlet. Because with larger systems, you do need what's called a dedicated outlet or a dedicated circuit. So that means there are no other loads on that circuit. If you have an outdoor outlet and your breaker panel, there's a breaker that is labeled outdoor outlet, then that is basically a dedicated circuit. It has its own breaker. Then you can go all the way up to the 1200 watts. If you don't have that, if it's just living room outlets or downstairs outlets and or yard outlets on the breaker, and there's a bunch of outlets, then you can only do 360 watt. And then finally, around the safety, I think Karina mentioned the most important thing, that's the grid safety. And it's often used by opposition, by detractors to try to cast doubt on this technology. The lineman safety, we get this a lot, on social media. When we run ads or post comments, we get a lot of comments. What about the lineman? So that really is a non-issue because these inverters are designed to only work when they have a grid signal. So the way this inverter works is it basically picks up the grid, the alternating current, the grid signal, the 120 volt that comes through the outlet, and it synchronizes with it, and then it pushes current into the plug. The moment you pull the plug out, it stops producing within milliseconds because otherwise you could actually shock yourself on the prongs. And that same mechanism protects the lineman because the moment the grid goes down, the inverter shuts off. So that also means that these systems do not provide backup. So if the grid goes down, if you have a power outage, this panel does not help you unless you have a battery. And so that's where it really gets interesting. There's a number of vendors in Europe. It's becoming more and more of a trend to actually pair a battery with these systems. So there are small, if you know, these camping solar generators or portable batteries. They are maybe the size of a small cooler. And there are now versions of these batteries that you can plug into the wall and that can feed power into the wall. So what that does is now you can have more solar capacity. The panels feed into the battery, and then the battery feeds into the home when the home needs it most. Because a lot of homes actually don't consume that much power while the sun is up. And then when the sun goes down late in the afternoon, people start coming home, they turn on the lights, start to cook, turn on the TV, run the laundry, run the dishes. So there's a bit of a misalignment between when the sun shines and when we use electricity in our homes. So we think the battery will be key in the longer term to allow a bigger system to have an even more positive impact on sustainability and on the grid overall. But for now, it's in this moment, at this beginning of the movement, it's all about just igniting this initial spark, getting these panels on people's balconies like the senators, and having people talk about it, having you tell your neighbors, and you basically just start partaking in this new possibility that almost everyone can now have solar in their home, even if you don't own the roof, even if the roof is too old for a solar installer to want to touch it. And yeah, that's the big story. I do want to pitch our membership, and I have a little offering for you. So I mentioned we have this $29 membership that unlocks the discount on the panel. Even if you're not ready to buy the panel yet, you could already consider becoming a member and just supporting the cause, being part of this movement, supporting the ongoing advocacy work that will bring this to more states. And so we have this 20% off the $29 membership if you want to go to brightsaber.org/membership and SCVC, Sierra Club Virginia chapter 20. And that's valid today. So that's my little my little gift to the audience. And yeah, thank you for having me. I'd be happy to answer any questions, especially the more technical questions around the safety and how many panels you can use. And I don't know whether we do this yet or now or whether we do the combined Q&A all together, Karina.
Thanks so much, Rupert. I think what we'll do is I see there's so many great questions already, so we might as well just dive right in. So first question is there a warranty available for the panels?
Yes, there is. So the inverter is actually the more expensive piece. There's a sophisticated electronics in here, and the warranty on this inverter is 12 years. The panels have a 6-year warranty, but they actually last much longer.
Fantastic. Our next question is someone wonders if there are any special considerations needed if they have a whole house generator.
Yes, that is an interesting question. So I presume that the generator is for powering the house when the grid goes down. So then usually what these generators have is a so-called transfer switch that isolates the house from the grid due to the same reasons, lineman safety that we discussed. So basically, when the grid goes down, this transfer switch cluck, you literally hear it. It's a big, a big, massive switch, and you hear the cluck as it switches over, and then the generator powers up, and then the generator powers the home. And the solar panel will actually treat the generator like the grid signal. So as soon as the generator has started to power the home, then the solar panel will sense, okay, there's 120 volt in this outlet, and will start sending some additional energy and complementing the generator, basically what the generator provides to the house. So you're using, just like you're using less from the grid in normal operation and saving a few ounces of gas being burned every minute. The same as when you're running your generator, you literally save the gas or the diesel or whatever your generator runs on in the amount that the panel contributes to the home's energy use.
All right. Let's go from generators to cars. Can you use this system to directly charge an EV with level one charging?
Yeah, that we get that a lot too. It's also a great question. It does not directly charge the EV. So I think in a lot of people ask, well, what does it power? Does it power my fridge? Does it power my EV charger? The truth is, it will simply, the electrons don't really care where they go. So the electrons will flow into that power outlet through the circuit back to your breaker panel, and from the breaker panel back out through all the other circuits to whatever uses the energy. So if you have your lights on and your fridge is humming along, then that will absorb a few electrons. And if you but that might be less. If you have more panels, that might be less than the panel's output. So the remainder will go to the EV charger or whatever bigger loads that might be running. So we always say, based on what I mentioned earlier about the daily usage not being that well aligned with the solar production, a bigger system really makes sense as long as you don't have a battery if you have these bigger constant daytime loads. So if you work at home and you charge your car during the day, and that's a great way to absorb a lot of energy, then you want the 6 panels because the EV will actually draw more than that. If it's only the fridge running, then 1 panel covers that, and you don't need 2 or 4 or 6.
Wonderful. Thank you. Getting some questions about basically what happens in states where it is not legal. Are you all not shipping to those states, or what would someone do if they're
Mhm,
in a state
mhm.
that isn't quite legal yet?
Yeah, we don't really like the word legal or illegal because plug-in solar was never illegal anywhere in the first place, right? It just came with these onerous rules that make it pretty much impractical. No one's gonna do a permit and electrical drawings and pay an electrical engineer and to go through and then apply for interconnection and wait for months simply to put a small solar panel on their balcony. That's just not practical. So there was really just absence of regulation that enabled this rather than it being outright illegal. And it was in a way a gray area because what motivation would utilities really have to enforce and sanction the interconnection rules for such a small system? In practice, we know that a bunch of people in all sorts of states that don't have these plug-in solar laws yet are and have been using these panels, and we don't know of anyone who's gotten in trouble with the utility. So it's more of a gray area. You're not really, you're supposed to do this interconnection, but if you don't do it, what happens? And so our stance is there are the 10 states that have allowed it, and the remaining. So in some of the states, the law is not in effect yet. But some people in Virginia will probably, in anticipation of the law going into effect, since it will go into effect, get ahead of the law and already order one today. And similar in other states where the legislation is pending, or people have become aware of the legislation in neighboring states, some people are simply ordering them, and we don't prevent them from doing that. However, there are three states that have some very explicit provisions in their legislation that they require a whole system certification, and that's New York, Maine, and Vermont. And we do not ship into those states because there it's clearly that our current system, not having this whole system certification, is non-compliant. So in our mind, we do ship into the gray area where people they might actually do the interconnection agreement, or they might not. That's up to them. While in the states where the regulatory framework for plug-in solar now exists and has some very specific stipulations that we can't comply with, yet the whole system certification, we don't ship to those. And that's where we get, and there might be questions there, into the whole topic of UL certification, whole system versus component. So all these components have their certifications. For example, this inverter has UL 1741. Probably many of you know UL is basically the certificate or the standard making. It's not exactly a standards body. It's a company that makes these safety standards, especially electrical safety. So your TV has a UL sticker in the back, and your washer and your dryer and your dishwasher, they all have their own UL standards and their UL listings. And so there are UL standards for solar panels, UL standards for inverters. Those have all existed. And of course, everything we sell is properly certified. But now a new UL standard, or a draft of a new UL standard, has been published recently for the entire balcony solar system, because the idea is, yes, these systems are all safe by themselves. I'm not gonna shock myself if I touch this inverter. Not gonna blow up and it's not gonna burn, all these things. But if you combine it in this novel way with this panel and plug it into the outlet, that can create new safety hazards, such as this circuit overheating problem that we touched upon. And so that's why it makes sense to have a new standard. But the standard is still evolving. The first version of it came out very strict, very restrictive. It mandates a special plug. So now you're not talking plug and play into any outlet anymore. You need a special outlet. And all of this is still being debated because it's a preliminary standard. But no vendor has yet certified a whole system to that standard. So the three states that explicitly require it are off limits for the time being.
Thank you.
That was a long answer, sorry.
No, that's good. We now know, don't plug it in before January 1st. Okay. Uh, some questions that I'm gonna combine two questions here, Rupert. One question is about the average number of hours of direct sunlight that the panel needs to be most efficient.
Mhm.
And there's also another question that is similar in nature about on someone's typical electric bill, um, how long of a payback period are people seeing for panels once they plug them in compared to when they bought the panel and what their bill was before.
Hmm. Yes, to get good payback, you do need good sun, direct sun all day. So solar panels are quite sensitive to shading. So if you have the solar panel, let's say there's a wall next to it and the wall casts a shade, like a diagonal shade on the solar panel for half of the day, then the solar panel will produce quite little during that time. And only when the whole thing is in direct plain sunlight does it really produce. So yes, and of course that is a restriction. Some houses have big trees or neighboring houses. It's not going to work for everyone. You do want somewhere between southeast, south, or southwest orientation, and you really do need to catch that sun. We always say at least 6 hours of full direct sunlight per day. But if you go, another resource that we have on our website is the savings calculator, and I can actually stop sharing this for now. So we have the savings calculator, and that saving where you enter your zip code and tells you roughly what you could save, and that assumes full exposure, and it also assumes optimal angle toward the sun. So if you have it hanging vertically and the sun is very high in the sky now in the middle of summer, it hits the panel at a rather unfavorable angle. So you actually want to angle the panel around 40 degree roughly your latitude toward the sun. However, so the typical balcony mounting, just hanging it vertically on a balcony railing, has the advantage of providing more power in winter when the sun is very low most of the day. It hits it much better than when it's flat. So there's always a bit of a compromise, depending, again, do you have that? Are you just trying to power the fridge, but power that year round? Then it's fine to go steeper. If you power that EV that you're charging in your driveway every single day, then you want to go flatter because you get disproportionately more energy in summer when the days are long and the sun is high. And in absolute numbers, so our two-panel kit is designed to have a payback period of under 3 years in California with our relatively high electricity rates here. I think we're actually closer to 2 years now. Yes, actually closer to. Let me think about it. Yes, we're actually under 2 years under ideal conditions in California. Your rates in Virginia are less than half California, so realistically, it's more like 5 years. But since the panel should last 10 to 15 years, it's still a very, very good investment if you have that long-term view.
Fantastic. I'm going to continue down the thread here about space and where the panels are. We have a question about can both the plug and the panel be outside where it could get wet? And also, are there any considerations that need to be given to where the panel is relative to the house? Can it be a certain distance away? Does it need to be connecting? Well,
Mhm.
is there a longer cord, et cetera? People are sharing that it might not be might not be workable for the space they have directly connected to their house, but they could put it sort of further away.
Yes, so it is going to be outside. So the one requirement is that you have first a GFCI outlet. Those are the outlets with the little test and reset buttons for outside and for wet spaces that you have in your bathrooms and kitchens, and that have been mandatory for any outside outlet since 1978, I think. Surprisingly, a lot of homes still don't have them outside. But that is a sort of the very small upgrade that you'd have to make if you don't have GFCIs. And then also for them to be permanently shielded from the weather. So there are these so-called in-use weather outlet covers. So a relatively big cover that not just a lid that covers the outlet while it's closed, but a cover that covers the outlet while the plug is plugged in. And then in terms of extension cord, that's also one of the, so we believe that it's perfectly fine to run an outdoor extension cord, just like you do for other other use cases for your Christmas lights, etc., etc. However, this UL standard that we mentioned, again, the first draft has come out very, very restrictive, and it says you cannot use an extension cord. So again, the standard is being negotiated, but there are some people who will say it's just too much risk to have this extension cord outside all year round. We think there's a lot of extension cords outside all year round, all around the country. And this technology is not different from the Christmas lights. So these small panels, it's only a few amps. The power flows not to the Christmas lights, it flows into the outlet, but that's not different. It doesn't make it more dangerous. So our practical advice is that an extension cord is absolutely fine to use, as long as that's an outdoor rated extension cord, of course.
Fantastic. All right. Our next question is about bulk purchasing by states or other governments. Is there any consideration for states or local governments that may choose to bulk purchase these panels, and is that something worth advocating for?
I think we'll see that. So once this idea gets traction and people get excited about it and it becomes part of the general knowledge, all sorts of things happens. Nonprofits start sponsoring bulk buying. Cities do low-income programs, giving away or subsidizing those panels. And in Germany, they do like flea markets on the town square when solar panels get taken off utility scale PV power plants. So these solar panels might have been out in the utility scale solar power plant for 10 years, and they are taken down because they're replaced with more efficient panels, but the panels are still perfectly fine. And so they just give them away and make big giveaway parties. So you'll see so much cool stuff happen. And so I think that will all evolve over time. We may not be the ideal source for that because we're really focused on consumers. We have this membership model. We want people to be active with us. We want to build this constituency. That's also what I think that Karina had in her slides. So this is more than just some consumer gadget that you buy. It's a part of a movement that you become part of. And so how exactly is that going to work partnering with state agencies? We'll see, but we're open to discussions. But at the moment, we're very focused on really getting individuals to be part of this movement. But obviously there are other vendors who sell these systems. There are manufacturers who especially sell the larger systems with batteries who are successful in Germany. And so maybe those will be the better sources for bulk buying programs. But yeah, if someone's interested, I'm happy to talk.
Thank you so much. That makes sense. I'm wondering if you can go back to talking about, we have a question related to batteries again,
Mhm.
and the role that the panels play with batteries. And I'm wondering if you can expand a little bit more about um, whether or not the panels can support a battery during an outage, or they don't directly support a battery during an outage because they're not feeding electricity from the grid at that time. And if you could just discuss that briefly.
Yes, that's a great question too, and a good observation. Due to what we discussed earlier, the systems cannot send anything into the outlet while the grid is down. The battery is not suitable for a whole home backup. The way it's also too small for that. The way you would have an Enphase or a Tesla Powerwall. However, it does provide what I like to call localized emergency backup because most of these batteries have outlets on the battery. So you can plug stuff directly into the battery. So if the grid goes out, you have the battery sitting out on your balcony, you can take your phone charger outside and plug it in. And if you go to sleep and the grid is still out and you're worried about medication in your fridge that might go bad, you could actually take the battery, carry it into the kitchen and plug the fridge in. So it is not the full convenience of a $10,000 or $20,000 whole home battery, but it's a $1,000 battery that does give you some resilience during outages.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Um, Wondering if you can share with us some locations that you've seen people place these panels. For example, some people are sharing that they don't have a roof that it could be put on, or they might not have a balcony. Have we seen these be put on the ground or on any other interesting or creative places that you've seen?
Yes, we've seen almost everything. So on the ground is actually very practical. If you have just some space on a sunny side of the house, you could lean one or two against the wall at an angle. You don't need any special mounting hardware and secure it with a zip tie to maybe a screw or a downspout. You can hang them on fences. You can simply place them on the ground, the so-called ground mount. There are all sorts of mounting brackets. You can buy aluminum mounting brackets for $30 on Amazon that you can, some people build their own mounting brackets out of wood, lumber, two by fours or whatever, or two by twos. People get very creative to mount the panels and angle them out at the right angle. We see them mounted on walls and on typically not really. If you go on the roof, I think it becomes more of a construction project, right? You probably do want to hire a contractor. You don't want to drill into your roof. We do not encourage anyone to drill into their roof and to get on a ladder and climb 20 feet up. That's not really the intention. But we have seen people mount them on maybe ADU roofs if they have a cottage in the backyard or on garage on flat roofs. So they sometimes just place them again with those same aluminum brackets and weigh them down with pavers or sandbags. So all of that.
Thank you so much, Rupert. That was so informative and interesting. I feel like I just learned so much, and I was tracking the bill the entire time, but now I feel like I know even more about everything that I need to know. I'm going to pass this over to Billy on our team, who is going to share a little bit of information. Number one, some information that you can use sort of as a resource page that you can kind of use as a go-to. You can go or share it. You could go to read it and also go to share it with folks, and then tell you a little bit about an action we will hope you take to continue supporting solar policy in the Commonwealth. So, Billy, over to you.
Thank you. Also, Maeve, do you want to sit with me?
So I got one cup.
Okay, thank you, sweetie. My daughter is very excited to
Okay.
use our plug-in solar unit to cook for her mommy and daddy. Y'all will see in the chat that I just dropped our blog post with the Virginia chapter on the recently passed balcony solar law, where you can get information on how this affects you. Also, I saw that Paige had shared some more information, and I had shared a little bit on Bright Saver's website about just kind of general, really good, useful FAQs and just information about the technology and how you can make the use of it and how you can, maybe find changes to make it more effective in your community, whether you have an HOA or you're in a condo, and making sure advocating for those policies. So please do make sure to check out our website, and that's also a great place to come back to regularly to get updates on kind of next steps here. Speaking of next steps, and it was really inspiring to see so many questions in the Q&A about like how to scale this. How are we going to be using this to, as Rupert mentioned, kind of making a community, building a constituency, as Rupert and Karina made, to actually affect change, to make this a more effective policy in your neighborhood, but also just continue to build this future where folks can take advantage of solar energy and share the sun with their neighbors. The timing couldn't be better because Governor Spanberger, Governor of Virginia, and her office is currently accepting comments on a state energy plan for the Commonwealth of Virginia. This is a moment where Virginia will be deciding about how decisions are made and how policies that haven't even been brought up yet will be decided, and how we are making sure that we are building an effective energy and electricity economy that and making deciding who it works for. And this is your chance to make sure that it works for the people. As Rupert and Karina discussed, and in your questions, at the heart of this incredible policy and this technology is sharing the sun, making solar power and electricity more accessible to everybody, making it affordable for every Virginian and every member of our community across the country and across the globe. And that is what we, Sierra Club, care about. That is what the environmental movement is all about. This environment, these communities, this resource, and our future is for everybody. And that's the kind of energy that we need you to bring for Virginia to the comment period for the state energy plan. We have an active petition that I just dropped into the chat, and we'll be blasting that out statewide tomorrow, so y'all are getting a sneak peek. And this is an opportunity to sign on to a petition, but really is importantly an opportunity to share your story. What inspires you about the incredible work that Rupert's done, Karina, Paige, Connor, you and your community have done to help move Virginia closer to this better future, this clean energy economy? And what do you want to see the governor do? So important that you offer a personal comment. There's support available for anyone who needs it. And make sure to share why this is important to you. We'll make sure to follow up with you with this to share this link in the near future. And we're going to look forward to opportunities to connect with you and your neighbors about how to advance this policy so it works for you in your neighborhood. I'll pass it back to the team.
Thanks so much, Billy. And again, those two links are in the chat for your use, and we will also be sharing them with you all in a follow-up email after today's event, both to the website link where you can find out more information and you can use it to share with others, and then also the petition to Governor Spanberger for a Clean Virginia Energy Plan that Billy just discussed. With that, we're going to wrap up tonight's webinar. I want to thank all of our speakers so much for providing this really helpful information. Rupert, thank you for sharing all of your expertise and knowledge in that rapid fire Q&A round, and Karina for explaining the legislation, Billy for taking us through the next steps. And always a shout out to Paige for helping us with our technology on the background, because I think without Paige, we would be not even on the webinar at the moment. We would be unable to figure out how to do it. So thank you to everyone on our team for their work to do this webinar tonight. And we really hope that you all learned a lot and are ready to take action to move Virginia forward and keep our clean energy growing. Have a wonderful evening, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.